So, it's 3 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, I guess, so about 5 o'clock in Jersey. I'm slowly making my way to the Pacific Coast. Audrey gets in in a few hours, at 7. So I have a few hours to myself. Got in about half an hour ago. I'm actually sitting in the parking lot in my car of my hotel. Check-in is at 3, so I got here a little before check-in, and I didn't feel like going anywhere right now. I wanted to just kind of hang out, so I had something I needed to do today anyway as far as my blog was concerned in my car, so it works out, and that is to tell a little bit about Shaquan. I said I'd be sharing a little bit about my story, and Shaquan's a pretty big part of it. So I mentioned my book before. This is my book, Praying for Peace, A Journey to Serenity. It's available on Amazon. And I wrote that book in 2007, and it took me about 3 years to get it published. I revised it a few times or whatever, but the initial manuscript was written in 2007, and it was written, it was motivated because I always thought about writing a book, but I was never motivated, and the motivation came from a relationship that I had where I was in a relationship with a girl that had a 1-year-old son, and I totally fell in love with him from day one. I adored him. The relationship only lasted about 6 months, but I got very close to him in that time, and for the next year and a half, even though me and her weren't together, we split custody of him. He was with me a lot of times even more than he was with her, and that was a rough period in my life. I was really starting to struggle with the drinking. When I had him, it was easier for me not to drink, but, even then, sometimes I drank, and I made a lot of bad decisions when I had him. And he was the motivation for the book because about a year prior to that, about April of 2006, I was on a leave of absence from my job. My drinking, I had a suicide attempt. My drinking was really getting out of control. My depression, I didn't know what to do. I've been struggling with this for 3 or 4 years now, and I was on the verge of losing my job. A psychiatrist had said that I needed to take 6 months off, go to meetings, talk to a counselor, kind of rehabilitate myself a little bit before I got back to work. So it was in this period of time, and I was struggling back and forth with the drinking, but I was doing, for the most part, I didn't drink when I had him. And, his mother got upset. We had an argument, and it doesn't really matter what it was about, but she decided to take him away from me. And, I considered him my son. She considered him my son. She would refer to him as my son. And I didn't know. I had a meltdown. I didn't know how to process that. My world kind of centered around him. That was the only way I could even, get any little bit of sobriety together. And even when I was really broke and I barely had money for me to eat, I made sure that he got a good meal, even if it was taking him to my mother's house or something like that. So I adored this kid, and she told me I couldn't see him for like a month, and she told me I couldn't see him anymore, and about a month went by, and I realized that she was serious, and I went over there drunk, and I acted out in a blackout. We got into a fight, a big fight, and I acted, poorly in a way that I can't, I regret and wish I could take back, and that was it. That was April 14th. No, I brought him home April 14th. Sometime in May this happened, of 2006, and that was it. That was 7 years ago, and I haven't seen him since. So I got sober for about a year, but I still was just struggling. I was like a dry drunk. I was unhappy, and I had a lot of growing to do. And next summer came, and I broke. I couldn't stay sober more than 9 or 10 days, and my God, that was a dark period. But I also started to get a lot of signs, and by the end of that summer, I was ready to write. So and I wrote it in the hopes that I would get myself together, and that I would get it published, and that it would sell a lot of copies, and that she would see it, and she would let me, see him again. But it's been 7 years now, and even if she was to forgive me and want me back, in his life, he doesn't know me anymore. Which brings me to why, I'm doing this from the car. for this one, and that is that since I lost him, I've kept a picture on my dashboard in every car that I've had. I actually got, when I had the copy, the picture printed out, I got like 9 of them. So even cars that I crashed and totaled, I still had this same picture. It's my favorite picture of us. And, I've needed that for inspiration. Let me see. I think, yeah, I've needed that for inspiration for a while. It's always my favorite picture of us. It's actually the model for the tattoo that I ended up getting of him about a year later, probably this summer when I got, before I wrote the book. So anyway, I use that as fuel for a lot, and there's no doubt that Shaquan was a big part of my life and a huge inspiration, and that I needed that wake-up call to even begin to turn around. But as I make this transition, as I'm going from east to west, and from my old life to my new life, and from who I was to who I'm becoming, I think it's time to kind of let that ideal go. That is something that's connected to when I was making bad decisions, and I'll never forget him. I got this tattoo. It's not going anywhere, and don't regret the time that I had with him or dedicating my book to him, and I'll of course never forget him. But I'm going to put up my nephew KJ. He's become my inspiration. It's because of Shaquan that I am able to have the relationship with KJ that I do, and I'll always be very grateful for that. So with that being said, I'm not going to take Shaquan down. I am just going to put KJ up. And that is that. That's all from Albuquerque for now. Probably, I don't know if I'm going to park or just pick Audrey up at the curb. It depends on how much it costs to park. So I may be shooting her, I'm not sure. But either way, tomorrow is the Grand Canyon. So I'm really excited about that. I'm going to try and catch the sunset. Well, I'll tell you about that later. See you down the road a little bit.